professionals in our midst here, Doyin and Ladi. And the conversations we'll be having today would be around financial planning, career development, and things to note as you transition into the workforce. So yeah, it promises to be an insightful session today. Okay, right before I go ahead and introduce the speakers, I just wanted to let you guys know that this event was put together by two entities, Guidely, an immigration startup company, and the Nigerian Professional Group based in Boston, Massachusetts. And before we introduce the speakers, I would like to invite representatives from two of these entities to tell us what their organizations are all about and what they do. So first on my list, I would like to invite Adesua, who is the chairperson for student relations and scholarship at the Nigerian Professional Group. Adesua, you have the floor.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the conversation. On behalf of Nigerian Professional Group, NPG, I am excited to be here with you as we talk about strategic positioning for success in the USA. As Emmanuel said, my name is Adesua Igbenereka, and I serve as the chairperson for student relations and scholarship. And I'll share with you quickly that the mission of NPG is to support Nigerians in the diaspora who, through transformative collaborations, professional excellence, and professional development, to excel. So pretty much what that means is you come to the US, you're studying here, you're working here, and you're doing well. And we would support you through professional development. Our goal this year and our team is to be intentional. And so Emmanuel is going to share with you our webpage where you can go and research us, but we want you to connect with us because if you're successful, it means that we're all successful and we're here to help you through professional development. And one way we do that is through having partnerships like this and through conversations like this. So thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you very much, Adesua, for that very brief introduction. Guys, make sure you do follow the Nigerian Professional Group at Nigeria Pro Group on Instagram and the Nigerian Professional Group on LinkedIn. Next, we have Daniel Jayoba, the CEO of Guidely. Daniel, you have the floor now.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Daniel, and I'm representing Guidely on this call. And Guidely is essentially a company that is helping immigrants navigate the complex immigration processes and also helping them integrate in their new countries. And this is something that was actually birthed from our own experience as immigrants, and we're building a solution. The MVP will be out later this month. So please, we have your email. So we'll send you like an email to download the app, and we'll love your feedback on your user experience. Also importantly, we are starting something we call like Immigrant Voices, where we share exciting stories, shocking stories that immigrants faced in their new countries. I will send the link in the group chat. So please, you'll be completely anonymous. Fill the group with very interesting stories of your experience in your new country, and we will love to broadcast it so that other immigrants can read and learn and laugh, and it'll be exciting. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for that brief introduction. Guys, don't forget to follow them on all social media platforms at MyGuidely. So right about now, I would be introducing the panelists. First on my list is Ladi. Ladi got his degree from Tennessee State University, a HBCU, where he studied industrial technology. Throughout his career, he has actively been engaged with efforts on workplace diversity and inclusion, specifically around recruitment and belonging in tech and engineering. Ladi began his career in supply chain operations at PepsiCo before leading IT project management solutions for companies such as Steward Healthcare, Bain Capital, and Optum. Ladi currently leads diversity, equity, and inclusion staff programs at MathWorks, And in this role, he is responsible for, which includes strategic initiatives to increase retention, engagement, inclusion, and acceptance. Thank you so much, Ladi, for honoring our invitation. It's our pleasure to have you on this call today.
Emmanuel, you're on mute.
Oh, I apologize for that. The next person I'm going to be introducing is Doyin. Doyin is a strategy lead within Microsoft's digital stores team. Leveraging her background as a former Bain & Company management consultant, she holds an MBA degree from Yale. Prior to Bain, she was a product manager at Google X, where she led one of the company's efforts at commercializing its technology. And before relocating to the United States for her MBA, Doyin worked extensively in investment banking in Nigeria, and she enjoys traveling to discover fun places. Very impressive bio, Doyin, and thank you so much for honoring our invitation and being on this call today. Doyin, you're mute. You couldn't hear the thank you.
Thank you. I was hoping you read my lips, but thank you.
Ladi, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. So now I'm diving right into the questions. And the very first question is for Ladi, and this is one question that I had to address long before I started looking for full-time opportunities here in the United States. The question is, Ladi, how crucial do you think internships are in shaping a student's career trajectory? And is it possible to secure a full-time position without prior internship experience? Ladi, we can't hear you.
Right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
You should. Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say, I think there's about 2 or 3 questions in it. I think the first question, how crucial internships into shaping a student's career trajectory? Very, very crucial. I think that the other question too was, is it possible to secure a full-time position without prior internship experience? Yes, it's possible, but I think it also depends on the sector that you're working in. I think just to kind of add some more color to why internships are crucial for a student's career trajectory. I think one of the purposes of internships, at least in the US, is to provide you with a view of what your future career could look like. I think a lot of times, some folks might have an idea of what they think the work is going to be. For example, software development. You probably might have a friend or know someone that probably works in an aspect of software development. And maybe, for example, it's UX. Maybe you're more on the creative side. And then you think about it and say, you know what, actually, I want to work more on the program management side, just based on an internship that you did. But for the 3 months that you worked, you didn't like what you actually focused on, and say, you know what, this sounds like a great idea, but not for me, for someone else. And then when it comes to the aspect of having an internship as a requirement for full-time experience, some sectors or some careers might require that, but some might not. So I think it's obviously a good idea for you to do that research on your own to know what is the field I'm going into and what is required. I think finally, if you don't have an internship before you graduate, all hope is not lost. I think while working at a company or an organization is a good idea, you can actually create your own internship. You can spend that 3 months training and honing your skills and whatever it is you want to do. And then you can let whoever the manager or the recruiter is, and let them know, you know what, while I didn't work for a company for 3 months, I spent the time building my skills, and here's what that looks like. I did this free certifications. There's a lot of things you can do to occupy your summer as for an internship. So I think to your question, very crucial, but also not having an internship doesn't mean you can't place a full-time employment.
Beautiful. Yeah, and just to recap on what you just said, yes, internships are in fact very crucial, but not landing one, all hope is not lost. Thank you very much for that answer. Doyin, the next question is for you, and I think you're gonna like this one. What are the primary tax obligations for foreign nationals working in the United States? And are there any specific tax advantages available to these foreign nationals?
Yeah. So there are two parts of the question, and I think the first part is easier. Tax obligation, you will pay taxes, whether you're a student or you're working here. The US does not joke with taxes. You have to pay money. So as a student, it is your obligation to make sure that you pay taxes. And if you're working, you will pay taxes, and there are no excuses for not paying taxes. You need to get on it. Sometimes international students forget that they are supposed to pay taxes even while they are students, but you need to pay, you need to file your taxes even as a student. So that part is easy. Always know that the US is going to tax you. And at every point while you're in the US, whether as a student, irrespective of the capacity, you need to think about when you will file your taxes. So that's pretty easy. I mean, there is the point about like if you are a US citizen or a green card holder and maybe you are not living in the US for some time, the US will still tax your global income. So if you like move to Canada or move to Nigeria, US wants to tax your global income if you are a permanent resident or a citizen. I think the more interesting part of that question is what are some tax advantages or ways you can make taxes work for you? And I think that's where I want to spend a bit of time. What you will realize in the US is taxes could easily be your biggest expense. So depending on what you're earning, whether you're a student or you've graduated, taxes are a big part. If you do your budget on Excel, you see that you're paying a lot in taxes. And you need to figure out, how can I make sure I reduce my taxes in a legal way? So you need to make sure you figure out how you can legally reduce your taxes. And that's where there are a lot of what I'll call tax loopholes in the United States. And I enjoy learning about like tax loopholes. I'll mention a few and you can research more, but I'll talk about a specific one. There's real estate as a way for you to reduce your taxes. You can read more about it. There are businesses as a way to reduce your taxes. They're like when you have mortgage and loans and big amounts like that, that's another way for you to reduce your taxes. There are tax advantaged accounts that you get once you start working, like 401k and things like that. That's another way you can reduce your taxes. So let me talk about two of these. And before I talk about them, if there's anything you should take away from this conversation, like my part of the conversation today, it is that your biggest asset is time. Whenever you think about becoming wealthy, settling in the US financially, your biggest asset is time. It's not real estate. It's not any other thing. It is time. So the earlier you started investing, the better for you. So, and that's why people talk about Warren Buffett. That guy has been investing since before my mother was born. So whether you're smart or not, the fact that he's invested for that long, there's almost no way he won't be wealthy. So what I'll say about two ways you can reduce your taxes and like tax loopholes you should definitely look into. One is if you have started working or you've gotten a job, from day one, figure out how you can max out your 401k. Now, I'm assuming you don't have student loans, and we can talk about that later, but max out on your tax advantaged accounts so that once you max out on your 401k, and 401k is like what we used to call pension in Nigeria, once you max out on your 401k, you can reduce how much the government will tax. Don't make that mistake of not putting in enough in your pension fund. That's one. The other one that I think a lot of people don't know about, especially international students and immigrants, is businesses. That is the biggest loophole in the United States when it comes to taxes. Do you know, like when I make my hair, the tax man pays for it. When I do my makeup, the tax person pays for it. Why? Because I started a business, and they don't care what kind of business you start. If you start a business and the intent of the business is to make profit, you can deduct everything, your car, your hair, my glasses, my lip gloss, my lipstick, everything, provided you can prove that lipstick is related to your business, you can reduce your taxes. So when you see a lot of millionaires starting businesses, it's one big way they reduce their taxes. So I'll stop there and see if people have questions.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was very well-rounded. I, for one, did not know that maxing out your 401k can definitely reduce your taxes. So I've learned something from that. Thank you very much. Ladi, the next question is for you. So in our industries, in our different industries, we need that one person who would walk into rooms and speak our names in those rooms where we are not able to, rooms that we are not able to walk into. So, and that's like, these are mentors, people that we hold in very high esteem. But what I've come to realize is that people go about connecting with these mentors and ways that they are not supposed to. So
again. Your sound was out for a bit, Emmanuel.
Can you guys hear me?
Now, yes.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. So the question was, the question is rather, what are the most effective methods for connecting with established professionals within your target industry?
I think this is a really good question. So just wanted to tie back on something you talked about, having that person or group of people that speak on your behalf when you're not in the room. I think just to talk a little bit about mentorship and sponsorship. So mentorship, I think a lot of us have mentors, even if they're not formal mentors. And I would encourage anyone, please don't feel like you don't have any mentors. Your family members, your friends, people that are in NPG, those that have your best interest at heart, those are mentors for you. You might not recognize that. But again, it's also good to have formal career mentors. So mentors are pretty much those that you can kind of seek advice regarding your career or whatever it is that you have going on. And then sponsors, just think about a sponsor. I mean, also think about immigration sponsor, right? So the company is sponsoring you directly with the US government, right? You're not present, but they are transacting on your behalf. That's kind of the same role of a sponsor in your career. They would pretty much say, you are Emmanuel, I think you're going to be great in whatever career that it is. When they're out and about, when they're in other people's, when they're in places where you're not, they're actually speaking highly of you. So I think it's good practice to be a sponsor for someone, even if they're not even aware, right? So just think about when you're in rooms and you have to talk about your colleagues, please make sure you are speaking about their best qualities as opposed to bringing them down. One of the ways in which you can build build your network or build more relationships is find people that are doing the things that you're interested in. For those that are probably international students in the US, find those that came to the US as students or came to the US through some immigration path and ask questions. You know what, as an F1 student, how easy or how hard was it for you to navigate the job landscape? You start to hear experiences of others. So there obviously along the line, you probably hear of some mistakes. You're probably going to get some tips. I think that would help you as you try to do things. Because the worst thing is you trying to figure it out all by yourself. There's help everywhere and it's free. So again, if you're going to connect with people, make sure you have a focus and a purpose on why you're reaching out to someone. I would encourage, if you don't have LinkedIn, please get on LinkedIn. It's a really nice place for you to get all the information you're looking for. When you're engaging with someone on LinkedIn or whatever platform it is, even if it's email, please be very straight to the point, right? So you know what, you're reaching out to me, hi, hello, whatever it is. Let me know what you need from me so I could be of best assistance. I think the worst thing is for you to ask me something that's unrelated to what exactly you need. You want to learn more about me, that's great, but remember, I'm here to help you as opposed to telling you more about myself. So it's always good to say, you know, how did you start your career and all of that, but please don't make that the majority, because at the end of the day, you might not get a second chance engaging with me or someone else. So make sure you ask whatever questions it is up front, and then at least they can provide you what you need. As much as I encourage folks to try to get as much assistance as they can, make sure you are also assisting someone else. Because again, as the wise Nigerian singer Davido said, we rise by lifting others, right? So if someone gave you that push, make sure you're also offering a hand to someone else to kind of get them up. And then finally, what I tell folks, I think a lot of times immigrants or even folks that might not be from a certain area, when they're in the workplace, it's probably a minority of whatever dimension, right? So maybe you're not a native English speaker or you're not from that area. It's very easy to just fall back and not engage. I would tell folks, push through, right? It might be very challenging, but I think the more you're vocal, the more you engage, the more you build those relationships, that's how you can actually grow. Because again, guess what? the folks that are in leadership positions, they're not always the smartest. They're not always the PhD or master's holders, but they're the folks that can engage. They're the folks that can communicate. They're the folks that have those qualities of a leader. So I think part of the qualities of a leader is being able to stand in front of a room and command that presence. So if you want to engage with someone, make sure you do have a presence to yourself, because remember, I want to communicate with the most confident people in the room. If I feel like you're lacking confidence and you almost don't look serious to me, and I don't want to waste my time or your time. So make sure when you're showing up somewhere, if it's through email, in person, or phone call, make sure you have the right information on what you're looking for. Because I think that always helps. You won't waste my time and I won't waste your time. So that's key, a key advice that I would definitely give.
Thank you very much, Ladi, for that. Let's not forget, we rise by lifting others, and let's consistently pay it forward. Doyin, the next question is for you. And this is one question that students who are just moving into the US would find very useful. How does the US credit scoring system work? And why is having a good credit score important? What are the best strategies in the US to establish and build a robust credit history?
Yeah, that's such a loaded question. So I'll try to be quick because I'm trying to be mindful of time. But I'll say three things. So three main things I'll say about this. One is, if you don't have credit, it counts against you. So you should have credit. It counts against you when you want to, like you in some cities like New York City, you can't rent good apartments. We're not even talking about buying a house. You can't rent good apartments in New York City without having some credit. Two, when you want to start investing in real estate, if that's your thing, and you want to buy a home or buy apartments or things like that, you will not be able to, okay? And so you need to have credit. That is the first one, that you need to have credit. The second thing I'll say about this is, so I've said credit card is good, you need to get a credit card. The second thing is, like I said earlier, your biggest asset is time. Once you get to the United States, from day one, get a credit card. Even if the limit is just $500 or $100, forget about that. But get a credit card. That's the second thing, because your credit score is better once you've had a longer time to build credit. Like, time is everything, right? So, and I'll talk about how the credit scoring works shortly, but that's the second thing, get a credit card. The third thing that I want to say is, anything you cannot pay for with your debit card, you can't afford it. Now, a lot of people that I've been with that are international students and immigrants, they see a credit card, they're just swiping like it's MasterCard paying for it. Anything you cannot pay for, if you want to buy something that's $500 and you don't have that $500 sitting somewhere in your account, you can't afford it. Credit card is not an opportunity for you to buy things that you can't afford, because the bank has given you a $2,000 credit limit. You max out on that credit limit and you don't even know how you pay back. So those are the three main things. Now let's talk about how you can build your credits. When you get your credit card, there are three main things that factor into what your credit score is. The first one is payment history. Essentially, do you borrow and you don't pay back, or you pay late? That's the main thing. The second thing is length of credits. Like I said, if both of us pay up at the same time, but you've been in the US and you've been building credit for 5 years and I'm just getting in, you will have a higher credit score. And the third thing that factors into what your credit score is the amount you owe. Now, those are the three things. Here's some tips for you if you're in the world of building your credit right now. One is, get your credit card as soon as possible. Two is, reduce your utilization. If someone gives you a $2,000 credit limit, make sure you don't exceed $500 every month. And that's because your utilization rate goes into your credit score and everything. So try to make sure you're not that person who has a $2,000 credit limit and you just max out on it every month. You have a lower credit score. And another thing, which is the most important thing, is never owe by 1 day. Try hard. Don't pay late by even 1 day. Always pay on time. And The way I do this is I just set up automatic alerts to take whatever I'm owing, but that also means I need to have the money in my account, which goes back to the point about if you don't have it on your debit card or in your bank account, you cannot afford it flat out. You can't. So those are the things I'll say, and then we can get
Thank you very
questions.
much. Yeah, that was a multifaceted question, and I think you touched on every side of it. So thank you very much for that. Ladi, you have the next question. So this was right before you joined the call. Myself and Doyin were actually talking about this, and one of the things that international students face is that fear of, am I going to get a full-time position once I'm done with school? Would all of this be worth it, or am I just wasting my time? So the question is, are there specific strategies or insights to increase the likelihood of securing a full-time position in a student's preferred field?
Yeah, I think there's another great question. I think as Doyin said earlier, time. So I think I'm going to take a different position on time when it comes to this. It's time, but specifically patience. I mean, when I go to career fairs, I would engage with a lot of international students, and they're telling me, oh, I'm going to be graduating in a month. I don't know what I'm going to do. I need a job. I need a job. I need a job. Well, guess what? 53% of college graduates every year are unemployed. So you're not the only one. So don't feel like if you don't get a job before you graduate, it's over, right? It takes about 3 to 6 months to really land that job. So if you're graduating in May, I don't think April is the right time for you to start looking. You can really start that process 12 months in advance, right? I'm not saying apply to every job 12 months in advance, but you could spend the first 6 months really having that focus. What exactly do I want to do? What type of companies do I want to work for? Which companies actually can provide the immigration support that I need, right? You start to see those things. What type of salary do you want to receive? Is there a target? Is there a goal? You can at least answer some of those questions, and then you can focus the next 6 months in that 12 months to now, okay, let me actively apply for positions that I'm interested in. Also, when you're applying for this position, what are the requirements? Are you just applying because you feel like, you know what, one of it must at least get into someone's hands? Or the reality is you're going to be fighting with AI, and the system is going to be looking for certain keywords and certain things that if you just apply randomly, it won't happen. Before it gets to a human being, it's probably gone through, like, let's say 10,000 resumes. And then it's like, you know what, all right, these are the top 50. So again, just remember that 53%. It's really hard getting that job, but it's very possible. I think also clarify what your degree is and also what your interests are. Because you're graduating with, let's say, let's say information analytics or something of that nature, doesn't mean it's a ticket for you to go work for a tech company. Certain companies require certain degrees or certain types of experiences. So be very clear on what your degree is, what your career interests are, and also what your target companies are going to be looking for. Also understand that certain companies might have assessments or tests that you might have to write. So remember those. And again, if you have to write those tests, please prepare. What happens is when you write those tests, they don't tell you what your score is. On the back end, we look at your score and say, for example, if target is 60 as a passing mark, if you're under that number, you're pretty much blacklisted for a time period. So remember, if you have to take tests, please prepare, study, whatever you have to do. Ask questions. If you got to get a community of friends to like help you prepare for that, please do it, because if you flunk it, there is a time period where you're going to be blocked out in the system. The company won't tell you, but this is what happens. Also, be determined, right? Advocate for yourself, because again, it's your career. You're the one looking for the job, and it's no one else's responsibility to find you that job. So again, like I said, put all of your energy and focus into, because again, this is a way for you to build what your future is going to look like. So please take it very seriously, but also be very patient. And I think the other part specifically for international students is, I think, be realistic with yourself, right? Know that the degree that you're going into and what the chances of that degree actually getting sponsorship after graduation. As sad as it might seem, I mean, of course, it's mostly STEM majors that get sponsorship after college. Again, not saying non-STEM majors can get sponsorship, but a lot of companies that are immigration friendly tend to be in the STEM industries. And even within STEM, there's certain majors too that get more of an interest from companies versus some others. And there's also industries that are more friendly towards immigration as well. So of course, tech is one of the big friendly companies, but I think one of the fields that nobody really looks at is life sciences and biotech. Those are really lucrative areas if you're looking for companies to do your sponsorship. Again, also just be very aware, be up to date on immigration bulletins as well. So you can see how many companies filed in the previous years and what majors they filed. That gives you an idea. And also the names of companies that file are public. So please do that research and find and know what companies are hiring and the positions they're hiring, so you can at least apply to very similar positions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that answer. Dorian, you have the next question. How can international students manage or refinance their US-based student loans? And what are the potential implications on their financial health?
I think this is the easiest question. And that is because refinancing I had student loans and I had a lot of it that gave me high BP, okay? But it is great. It's always great for you to refinance. And what is refinance for some of us on the call that don't necessarily understand it? You take student loans, and if you're an international student, and you didn't have a cosigner, your own interest rate is the highest ever. We always get the highest interest rates, okay? Now, it's always a good idea for you to find a way to reduce that rate so you can basically refinance. That's what this refinancing is about. So with refinancing, usually you can reduce that rate from, say, 10% if that's what you have. You can get it down to maybe 7% so that you reduce the interest that you pay. Now, because of the climate we're in right now, I have seen that rates are ridiculously high, and it is very hard for you to get a rate that's lower than what you got last year or what you got 2 years ago right now. But there are a couple of things I want you to look out for. Now, when you took when you took your student loans, did you have a cosigner? If the answer is no, that means you got the highest rate. Now, do you have someone that can cosign your loan? If the answer is yes, then you should go ahead and look out for refinancing options for you. Now, if you still don't have a cosigner, it's very unlikely you get a refinance rate that is lower than you got 2 years ago. So just be on the lookout for when, like, the Feds reduce the rates, but it's always a good idea to, even if it's 1%, you're able to, go from 10 to 9%, go for it. Another time, refinance again, okay? Just keep getting your interest rates to be lower because we pay the highest interest, honestly. So that's the thing. Now, how does it affect your financial health? When you think about money and building wealth, one thing you must remember is always prioritize the highest interest loan or credits that you have. When you think about all the things that you owe in your life, mortgage, student loans, you owe your friend, you have to start. You need to do a whole ranking thing. When you have any money in your account, you need to start with that loan that has the highest interest. If for you that is your student loan, that's where you need to put your effort and get it down, get it out of the way, because those high interest loans and credits really impact your financial health. And this is how it will impact you. I talked about the gift of time earlier and time being a big asset. If you earned maybe $5,000 a month, but you have to pay $4,000 or maybe you have to pay $3,000 in student loans, you are left with $2,000. You need to eat, you need to get to work, and maybe at the end of the day, you're left with $500. So what can you really invest? Maybe at the end, you can only invest $200, even though you earn $5,000. So that's why you need to pay down those high interests, because there's no investment that can guarantee 10% that you're paying for that loan. So if the amount you're paying, like if your interest rate on your loan is higher than what you can get in any investment guaranteed, pay out your student loans. Like put your effort on that and pay it out so that you can free up more cash to be able to invest. So I'll stop there.
Oh, you guys heard from Doying herself. You guys need to attack those high interest loans first before you start to think about the lower interest loans. Okay, Ladi, you have the next question, but before I go ahead and read out the question, we have about 32 or rather 22 minutes left on this call. So I'm going to be taking just 2 more questions, and then we are going to have questions from the audience. You talked about, Ladi, in the previous question, how candidates can improve their chances of getting a full-time role after they're done with school. So the next question here is, what are some things that candidates can do to distinguish themselves and leave a lasting impression during the interview process?
Yes, I think one of the, while your resume is gonna have all the information that the recruiter or hiring manager might be looking for, I always tell folks, before we even get to the career fair, make sure as part of your 4 years, 2 years, however long you're spending at a US college, gain experiences outside of the classroom. It's very key. It is very key. You're for example, for those that are international students, you are in a new country, you are in a new environment. As much as your studies are great, you also have to build a simulation in your new environment. So did you just only eat your cultural food, or did you try to experience the American culture as well? Did you go to American sports games? Because guess what? In the workplace, a lot of references are going to be based on American sports. So do you understand American sports? You don't have to be an expert, but at least you need to know certain terms. Also, did you explore the area where your college was, or you pretty much were just from your room to class, back to room? Find ways to engage with your local community, because I think it really helps you during that interview process. During the interview, I think the most interesting candidates are not the ones that actually talk about what they actually studied in class or their experiences, or those that actually carry a conversation. So if you notice the interviewer is from, I don't know, let's say New York City, and you've been to New York, it's a really nice way to engage with them. Now they can remember and say, you know what, I spoke to 200 students yesterday, but I remember the students from, let's say from Ghana, that talked to me about their first time in New York and how they got, I don't know, they missed their train ride and had to spend a day in a different city. Just something fun keeps that memory fresh on. I remember this candidate. I think when we talk about biases, I mean, there's bias during the recruiting process. Biases are something that we all have. They can be positive and they can be negative. If it's your luck, the bias could actually work in your favor, where it's like, you know what, this person spoke to me about XYZ, and I'm actually very interested in that. So you know what, that's who I remember in the process. I think also too, as much as internships are working internships at a company or doing research in organizations are key, I think, as I talked earlier, find opportunities to improve yourself outside the classroom. So take those extra trainings. There's a lot of free courses online. Engage with those. There's a lot of free seminars such as these, but there's others that are very tech-based or in skills that have relevance to your chosen path. So engage with those, learn as much as you can, build that network. I think a lot of times you might focus on yourself and your resume, but it's always good to say, you know what, here are some conferences I've attended. Here are some certification courses that I've done. I could then read them and say, you know what, wow, I've actually been to that conference before. Tell me about your experience. Now we're talking about something that's unrelated to your resume. But again, it keeps memory fresh in my mind that I spoke to you about some event that I've been to and that you've also participated in. And then finally, what I'll also let you know is, please engage in extracurricular activities on your campuses. When you're looking for a job, not only are we asking if you have the tech skills, but we want to know if you can be a leader. And one of the fastest ways to get the leadership experience is to join those organizations on your campus. So African Student Association, International Student Association, whatever engineering societies or Society for Chemistry Students, whatever it is, join. There's a really nice ways for you to work outside of the classroom and build some leadership skills. I think just one other bonus is be a good listener. Because I think when you're engaging with people, as much as I want to share about my company, it's your role to really find ways to ask questions based on things that I'm saying. because not only are you listening, but it shows that you're very interested. And I think those are some ways in which you could really stand out in the process. Actually, you know what? I just remembered another one. When you engage with companies, again, make sure that you know about that company, because the worst thing you can do is go to an interview or go to a career fair and then you're asking the person, tell me about your company. Again, we love to talk about the company, but guess what? We're at career fairs for 6 to 8 hours nonstop, saying the same things. So if you can spare us a break and you tell us that, you know what, I actually know about your company, I want to learn more about what you do at the company. That's a really nice way to say, you know what, wow, okay, I like this person. Let me tell you about what I do, as opposed to giving you like the 5 to 10 minutes about what the company does. So I think doing your research is very key.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And I hope that we're taking notes down because I know that one of your core responsibilities at MapWorks is recruiting, diversity recruiting. So you are actually speaking from a lot of experience. So thank you for that. Dorian, this is the last question we're going to be taking before we dive into questions. And the question is, what types of insurance, so health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, should a student prioritize as, rather not students, I think this covers everybody, should one prioritize as a young professional, and how does one determine the right coverage amounts?
Yeah, the most important kind of insurance that you should have in the United States is health insurance. If your company offers you health insurance, that's one, yes. Go for it, go for, depending on your situation, like my insurance when I was single to stupor was different from my insurance now that I have a baby and a husband. So you will calibrate based on your situation, but healthcare is expensive in the United States of America. So get the most coverage that you can for health insurance. And also like your health, like if you are a woman, for instance, and you plan to have a baby in the next 12 months, please go and get very good health insurance, the best that your company offers, because the day you see that bill that the hospital actually charges to have a baby, you'll be like, why am I even having this baby in America? So please, that's the main thing, health insurance. Outside of health insurance, my very honest opinion is before you buy any kind of disability insurance, like just go for whatever your company offers you. Make sure your priority is maxing out on tax-advantaged accounts. Every extra dollar you have, instead of putting it into maybe a disability insurance or any kind of thing, make sure you've put it in your 401k. Make sure you've put it in your 401k. Make sure you've put it in your Roth IRA. If you have that, I can explain what that is right now, but these are all tax-advantaged accounts. Right. So once you've done that, it is, if you have anything left, you should go pay extra for your disability insurance, especially if you're young, you're in your 30s or something or younger. I wouldn't think too much about any other kind of insurance. And my very unpopular opinion, most insurance schemes are scams. They are not like scams like 419 or whatever like that, but it's better when you look at people that have put their money in insurance and people that put their money in an index fund they bought through 401k, in 10, 15 years, that person that put their $1 extra in 401k is a lot wealthier than you that put your money in insurance. But that's not something I can share in detail today, but just know that health insurance is the most important kind of insurance. Once you have that covered, I'll put my extra dollar in a tax-advantaged account and let it grow for 10 years.
Beautiful. Tax advantage, guys. Okay, so yeah, I think we've come to the end of questions for the panelists, and now I will be taking questions from the audience. And we have about 13 minutes for questions from the audience before this session comes to a close. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hands in the chat and we can unmute you. Daniel, can you unmute Temi to ask her question? Or his question.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for putting this session together. I have a question for Doyin. So about student loans, when it comes to prioritizing high interest rate loans versus low interest rate loans. Do you think it's sensible if I get out of school, I get a 6-figure job? Do you think it's sensible to pay off all of my loans at once because I can afford to do it maybe in the first 2 years after graduation? Or should I just stick to the $300 a month payment and just pay it out over 10 years? Because I feel like the value of money is more now. So like, should I put all of my earnings into paying off my loans or just stick to the 10-year or 15-year payment plan?
Yeah, that's a great question and something that I had to ask myself as well. But I feel I have to first say this is not financial advice and all of that professional jargon, because it's required in the United States for somebody talking about money to say that. So this is not financial advice, but I've been through the same situation. So I'll tell you what I think is best, my opinion. If that your student loan has a very high interest rate, put all your money in it to get it down. When you one day sit down, do the analysis. At the end of 10 years or 15 years, if you keep paying the minimum, check how much you'd have ended up paying in 10 years. Many times you've paid double of what you borrowed. Like, that's true. If you just put it on Excel one day and try to figure it out, and you find that to be very true. So I don't want you to pay double of what you borrowed. So I'll say as much as possible. And what banks do that annoys me is when you pay anything to the bank, they front load the interest, not the principal. So of that $300, $200 may be interest, $250 may be interest, because that's what the bank cares about the most. So it's just $50 you're paying out of your principal every month if you stick to that minimum. So if your minimum is $300 and you have a 6-figure job and you can afford to pay $1,000 every month, go for it. Put all your money to make sure you don't have that 10% interest loan again, because in 20 years, you realize that money, if you had freed it up by paying your loans in 2 years, you could have invested so much, and it would have compound interest is so powerful. You could have become a lot more in 10 years time if only you had paid your loans quickly in 2 years. I'll just share my experience quickly. I had $100,000 in student loans. I got a good job and I paid it in 1 year. I didn't just pay the minimum. Every single, if you've worked in consulting, you know your bonus is a lot. When you get your bonus, you start singing. Once I get my bonus from Bain, when I was at Bain, I paid everything, sign-on bonus, annual bonus, anything I got from Bain went to my student loans, and I paid it down in 1 year. And that's why I can sit here and talk to you about investing and the power of compound interest, because I've freed up a lot of money to be able to invest in things that would help me in future to achieve financial independence and stuff like that, financial freedom. So that's my answer to you. Prioritize paying those high interest. But if your student loan is 2%, then we can have a separate discussion.
Okay. Timmy says, thank you. Do we have any other questions from audience?
I also know people had questions in the chat. So
yeah, there were some questions in the chat, so I can actually just see out. Okay, so Olushola Aina is asking, is it beneficial to hold multiple bank accounts / credit cards?
Short answer, I can answer that.
Yeah.
Okay, short answer is yes, but like with some explanation, but short answer is yes. Remember what I said about utilization. If you have multiple credit cards, that means from one bank you had $500 limit, from another bank you had $1,500, from another bank you had $3,000 limit. The total is $5,000. If what you really need from any credit card in a month is $500, then your utilization rate is so low, and that will help get your score to be higher quickly. Now, the thing is, why I said with some explanation, every time you apply for a new credit card, it reduces your score a little. So just pay attention to that. It's not free. Like there's a price you pay with your credit score. Every single time you apply for a new credit card, they will run your credit and that reduces your score. But usually the benefit you get from utilization is can cover for the benefit of that reduced points because you're applying for new credit cards. That's one. The second thing I'll say is, as you're applying for more credit cards, make sure you don't make the mistake of not paying them off on time. That is like, if you make that mistake 1 or 2 times, it can really destroy your credit score. So you have to do it carefully.
Okay. Ladi, I actually do have one question for you. And it's one of the questions that we didn't have a chance to take, but maybe I think we can take one more. Yeah. So from the current market trends, what platforms or resources are considered the most reliable for job hunting?
Well, I guess most reliable might be a little bit strong, but what are some reliable? Okay. Yes, I think some reliable ones. So for example, I think what I would tell folks is organize your resume for the job that you're looking for. So if, for example, you are that person that has one resume for every type of job, I think starting from today, please go and make 2, 3, 4 versions of that resume. What the resume that you use to apply for a software developer role is not the same you would use for project manager or program manager role, or the same that you would use for applying as a consultant or an analyst or whatever the field you're trying to go into. So make sure you build your resume for the type of job you're looking for. And what does that really mean? It's really putting those keywords, read the job description, understand what they're looking for, and then find ways to kind of go back into the things that you've done, the projects you've worked on. How can any of those things match those words? And then have those be in your resume. Because when the company tells you they're looking for a task-oriented person, they really want to see in your resume that you've actually managed tasks, or you can be that driver on a team. I think one tool to use is JobScan. What JobScan does is it's really scanning your resume for that job, right? It's pretty much, it's going to look at the job description and then scan your resume and let you know what, this resume really needs some work. You need to do more focus on these aspects of what the job description is asking. In terms of networking, I think LinkedIn still remains a really powerful tool. But again, networking is not limited to LinkedIn. So please also consider kind of in-person human interaction. So look within your community, ask your friends, ask those you know, your college professors. I think college professors is really one area that a lot of job seekers don't really pay attention to. Remember, they do have industry contacts. The students that went to the same college or the department or their colleagues also work in industry. So make sure you engage with your professors and letting them know, hey, I'm looking for a position at XYZ company. Who do you know, or what do you think are some ways in which I can engage more? And then finally, I think pretty much brand yourself in the way you want to be seen, because I think that's really one way in which you stand out, and it's something that you own, right? So any website, any job, whatever it is, if you don't brand yourself in the way that you want to be seen, I don't think anyone is really going to see the value of who you are. So just always remember to brand yourself, look like the part, speak like the part, like speak like who you want to hire, right? Or who you want to be in your future career. So I think I don't want to mention any specific websites, so that way you don't feel like, well, this person said this is the website that is the key trend for 2023, because I think there's always going to be a need for the specific sector that you're in. So I'll tell you, do that assignment on your own and find what works for you.
Okay, beautiful. I, for one, I use LinkedIn a lot for networking and for biotech roles. I think you'd find a lot of those on LinkedIn. I use Glassdoor to sort of see what the salary range is for a particular role that I'm applying for, because it's actually a very good resource for that. It gives you, and most of the times it's always almost 100% correct. So like predicting those salaries a lot of times. So yeah, so those are like just some different things that I do with some of these tools. Yeah, and to what you said, you don't want to give like one specific website and say, oh, this is the one that you should always go to. So yeah. Yeah, I think, I don't know if you have any other questions in the group chat, but yeah, I think that's all. That's all for now. So Doye, we can't hear you though.
I think we have a lot of questions in the group chat, but you may need to scroll. I think there's one from CC Vision.
Okay, if you see, you can read it out and answer it. I actually don't see it.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Apologies. I think they messaged me directly.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Don't read it out. Sorry.
How do you pay your investment mortgage? Do you hasten it versus spread it out to allow cash flow? This is getting into like very specific stuff, but I can answer, except you have another question you rather I answer.
We have just 2 minutes, so if you can answer
Okay.
that in 2 minutes and we wrap up, that would be great.
Yes. I'm not very emotional about real estate, so I'm not the type of person that'll tell you my dream is to own a home. I never want to own a home. I just want to live in a rented apartment for the rest of my life. But the only time you will find me buying a house is if that house can pay for all the expenses. I will only buy investment property. I don't want a house. I just want to buy a place that can pay for all the mortgage, all the insurance. If a house cannot pay for that, where I can put tenants, I'm not in that business. So given that background, because I'm buying a house that can pay for all the expenses, if it's a 30-year mortgage, many times I just leave it. I'm not in a rush to pay that because the house is paying for itself. But if the house is not paying for itself, then that's another story. So I'll stop there and we can discuss offline.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for honoring our invitation. We've actually come to the end of this session. It's been very informative. It's been very insightful, and we are so grateful that you guys honored our invitation. So thank you so much. This is on behalf of the Nigerian Professional Group here in Boston and Guidely. It's been our pleasure having you on this call. And guys, yeah, please make sure you are following Guidely at My Guidely on all social media platforms, and Nige Pro Group on Instagram, and Nigerian Professional Group on LinkedIn. Thank you guys so much for attending, and we appreciate your time. Thank you guys so much.